6 years, dozens of movies and shows, billions of dollars. And what did the MCU Phase 4 and Phase 5 actually achieve? Nothing. And now with the Doomsday trailer, Marvel is standing up and admitting all of it. From casting Robert Downey Jr. as Marvel's greatest villain to bringing 3 timelines together, every single choice in this trailer is the opposite of everything Marvel has been doing for the last 6 years. Now, for those who have only watched the Avengers movies and are not familiar with the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, the characters from the Black Panther films, the trailer and its details might sound overwhelming. To understand what's happening in this trailer, you need to know that 3 universes are colliding. Yes, I know. Why is Marvel making it complicated? But this is what MCU's Phase 4 and Phase 5 has been building towards, and knowing about these universes is extremely important. Otherwise, you will only be seeing Doomsday for the spectacle, even though it has the complexity required for a large film. Just give me a few minutes, all this will make sense soon. So 3 universes, Universe 616, that's the main MCU, the one you have been watching since Iron Man. Universe 828, the Fantastic Four's world, where Reed Richards and his team are the premier superheroes and where Victor Von Doom first rose to power. And Universe 10005, the Fox X-Men timeline, where Charles Xavier has been running a school for mutants since the year 2000. 3 separate realities built by 3 separate studios over 25 years, and the incursion at the center of Doomsday is bringing them all to the same doorstep. What happens when they crash into each other? That's what this trailer is really about. And to keep it simple, as I'm going through shot by shot, I will give a backstory of the characters to help with the explanation. The trailer opens on a sign in the rubble, Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters. Through a shattered window, Charles Xavier is watching his world burn. Charles Xavier is Professor X, the leader of the X-Men. He is a telepath and one of the most powerful minds on the planet. And here's why this opening shot matters a lot. Xavier and the X-Men do not exist in the main MCU timeline. They are from a completely separate universe, the Fox X-Men universe, which launched in 2000 with the first X-Men movie. That was before Iron Man, that was even before the MCU existed. And the entire superhero movie era was born inside this mansion, the same mansion we see in the opening shot of the Doomsday trailer. Now pay close attention to how the Russo brothers frame this. They don't cut, they don't move the camera. They hold on Xavier's face, watching the flames through glass, no dialogue, no score, just the sound of the crackling and the distant muffled destruction. In a way telling the audience that Xavier knew this day was coming. No anger, no telepathic scramble to locate survivors. He's completely still. This is a man who has been waiting for the other shoe to drop. And symbolically, if you look at it, that face, that resignation, that's been the audience since Endgame. Watching the MCU spiral through Phase 4 and Phase 5, waiting for it to mean something again.
When did we become the joke? No more.
So Marvel opening the trailer in this way sets the foundation. They open with the thing that came before them. And this is important because Avengers Doomsday and the next installment, which is Avengers Secret Wars, will play around with multiverses and a convoluted storyline which won't be linear in any sort of way.
Something's coming. Something we may not be able to deter.
Then we hear him, Dr. Doom.
Before this day is done, we shall be faced with an unthinkable decision.
Robert Downey Jr. Victor Von Doom is the ruler of a country called Latveria. He's a genius, one of the smartest people in the Marvel universe, on par with Tony Stark and Reed Richards. But unlike Tony, Doom grew up in oppression and loss. His mother was killed, his homeland was torn apart. He taught himself both science and sorcery to survive. And he emerged from that suffering with a single unshakable conviction. He is the only person who can save the world. Not out of ego, it's no surprise. He has a lot of that, but because he's looking at every possible future and genuinely believes that all paths to survival run through him. Now, where have I heard this before?
If life is left unchecked, life will cease to exist. It needs correction.
You don't know that!
I'm the only one who knows that. At least I'm the only one with the will to act on it.
Just like Thanos, Doom believes he is not a villain in his own mind. He's a savior who will do unspeakable things because he believes the alternative is extinction.
New mask, same task.
Marvel didn't bring back Robert Downey Jr. because no other actor could play Doom. They brought him back because of Doom's defining conviction. Only I can fix this.
Maybe your army comes and maybe it's too much for us, but it's all on you. Because if we can't protect the Earth, you can be damn well sure we'll avenge it.
That's exactly what Robert Downey Jr. represents to Marvel Studios. He launched the MCU with Iron Man in 2008. His face defined 11 years of unprecedented success, and since Tony Stark died in Endgame, Marvel has been unable to replace him. Phase 4 and Phase 5 kept throwing new characters at the wall: Shang-Chi, the Eternals, She-Hulk, Echo, Ironheart, and none of them stuck the way he did. So they brought back Robert Downey Jr. not as the hero but as the destroyer. And if you look at Tony Stark, who is basically
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
Dr. Doom thinks of himself in the same way. Now, how is the face of Dr. Doom and Tony Stark the same? What could be the reasons? I hope to cover that in a future video. So subscribe and click the bell icon to stay up to date. After this, we cut to the new Avengers Tower, branded with a massive A. Tony Stark built Avengers Tower, and after the team broke up in Civil War, it was sold and eventually became the base for the Thunderbolts, a team of reformed villains and anti-heroes led by a woman named Valentina Allegra de Fonte.
It's De Fontaine. You forgot the de.
She's essentially the new Nick Fury, but morally grey. She acquired the tower during the Thunderbolts film, and now it serves as a base for what's left of Earth's heroes. Inside we see the same roster. Sam Wilson, you know him as the Falcon. Now he is Captain America after Steve Rogers passed him the shield at the end of Endgame. Ant-Man, the guy who can shrink and grow. You have seen him in the Avengers films as comic relief, who ended up being crucial to the time heist. Cassie Lang, his daughter, who's taken on the mantle of the Stature in the comics, and descending in a rocket ship, the Fantastic Four: Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Johnny Storm, Ben Grimm. The Fantastic Four are Marvel's first family, a team of scientists and explorers who gained powers during a space mission gone wrong. Reed can stretch his body like rubber, Sue can turn invisible and create force fields, Johnny can engulf himself in flames and fly, Ben is the Thing, a giant rock monster with superhuman strength. They are from a different universe than the main MCU, Universe 828. And the most important detail, Dr. Doom is their villain. He has a history with Reed Richards. They were rivals, almost friends, before Doom's obsession with power and control turned them into enemies. Thor is already there, so are Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, Steve Rogers' best friend, the guy with the metal arm who was brainwashed by Hydra and then freed, Yelena Belova, Black Widow's sister, trained in the same Red Room program, now operating as her own kind of spy and assassin. And Ghost, a woman who can phase through solid matter, who you may remember from Ant-Man and the Wasp. So we see the team assembled. One can call them the new Avengers. But the visual language does not give a happy reunion feeling. The mood is grim and it looks more like a bunker meeting.
I've fought with many warriors in my time. You're far stronger than all of us put together, and they died.
Thor speaks next, and he's not the Thor you remember from Love and Thunder. He looks at the assembled heroes and says,
Everything that they sacrifice will be for nothing if we do not stand together.
This isn't a prayer, it's a warning. In Love and Thunder, Thor faced a villain named Gore, the God Butcher. Christian Bale gave one of the most unsettling performances in Marvel history. A man whose daughter died because the gods ignored his prayers, who then dedicated his existence to killing every god. It was dark, it was heavy, and the movie responded by cutting to screaming goats repeatedly. Thor was handed a dying child and the film cut to a joke before the emotion could land. The entire movie felt embarrassed by its own subject matter.
They died facing enemies and threats that scared me far less than this one.
Here, Chris Hemsworth delivers those lines with zero irony, just a god who is already been broken once. The Russo brothers aren't framing him like a hero, they are framing him like a survivor. And there's no punchline waiting, the camera doesn't cut away, the score doesn't wink. Marvel is showing you shot by shot that they know Love and Thunder got the tone wrong. And this is the correction. Now here's a detail about the Fantastic Four ship that changes how you read the trailer. Thor didn't bump into them in the main MCU universe, he went to theirs. That rocket ship means they just arrived from Universe 828, which means the fight we see later, Thor charging at Doom through a destroyed forest, that battle takes place in the Fantastic Four's reality. Doom is from their world, he has history with Reed there, they've already fought, Reed has already lost, Thor went to their universe to make a stand and he lost too. And this is where this trailer and its craft tells the story. In Infinity War, Thor nearly killed Thanos with Stormbreaker. That axe was forged in the heart of a dying star specifically to kill the unkillable. In this trailer, Doom catches it between his fingers. No effort, no flinch. The Russo brothers framed this shot exactly the way they did with the Thanos scene. Same angle, same composition, but with the opposite result. Marvel is telling you through the camera work, the old weapons don't work anymore. The old strategies are dead.
But mark my words, We're going to need a miracle.
After this, we go to Wakanda, or more specifically, the ocean floor outside Wakanda. In the post-Endgame movies, in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, the nation of Wakanda, the technologically advanced African kingdom ruled by T'Challa, the Black Panther faced an attack from an underwater kingdom called Talokan. Their leader is Namor, a mutant who can breathe underwater and fly, and who's been alive for centuries protecting his people in secret. He's not a straightforward villain, he's a king who genuinely believes the surface world will eventually destroy his home, and he's willing to strike first to prevent that. Wakanda Forever ended with a truce. Shuri, T'Challa's sister, who became the new Black Panther after T'Challa died, she sacrificed a tremendous amount to get Namor to stand down. She buried her brother, she buried her mother, Ramonda, who was killed during Namor's attack. She took up the mantle of the Panther while still grieving, and she chose peace over vengeance. The truce was fragile but real. In this trailer, the sea has been parted around Namor, held back like the Red Sea. Sue Storm's force fields are likely creating that barrier. Shuri is there in her Black Panther suit. Dora Milaje behind her. Both Talokan and Wakandan soldiers are armed, facing each other. It's a standoff. The framing is a choice. The camera places you between the two armies, eye to eye, with the ocean itself suspended above them. Two nations that barely made peace are now on the edge of war again. The incursions aren't just threatening universes, they're unraveling every fragile alliance the heroes managed to build. And then the X-Men arrive, and this is where the trailer shifts from ominous to genuinely chaotic. The X-Men are a team of mutants, people born with genetic gifts that give them extraordinary powers. They were created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby in 1963, but their movie rights were owned by 20th Century Fox, not Marvel Studios. That's why you never saw them in the Avengers films. For 20 years, Fox made X-Men movies in a completely separate universe, starting with the original X-Men in 2000 and ending with Dark Phoenix in 2019. When Disney bought Fox, the rights finally came home. This trailer is the first time these versions of the characters are appearing in the MCU. Cyclops, James Marsden, fires optic blasts from his eyes. He was the field leader of the X-Men, but the Fox movies famously sidelined him in favor of Wolverine. Here he is in comic accurate yellow spandex, finally looking like the character fans have wanted for decades. Gambit, Channing Tatum, charges objects with kinetic energy and throws them as explosives, usually playing cards. Tatum was supposed to play Gambit in a solo film years ago that never got made. This is the payoff. Mystique, Rebecca, is a shapeshifter. In the original X-Men films, she infiltrated the mansion by impersonating Wolverine and nearly killed Xavier. Now she is using the same trick against Yelena Belova, shapeshifting into her mind combat, turning a Black Widow's own face against her. Nightcrawler, Alan Cumming, is a teleporter, deeply religious, covered in blue fur with a tail and a pointed ears. He moves through smoke and debris, appearing and disappearing, looking like he hasn't aged a day since Cumming first played him in 2003. Magneto, Ian McKellen, controls metal. He is a Holocaust survivor who believes mutants are the next stage of evolutions and humans will always persecute them. He and Xavier were once friends, then enemies, then friends again. He's old now, weathered, still fighting a war he's been fighting since before the MCU existed, and you can see him in this shot here. Now here's what the Russos are doing with these characters. These aren't walk-on cameos. The camera gives each one of them a hero shot. Lighting shifts, the frame pauses for a beat, but then they are woven directly into the action. Cyclops and Gambit are fighting alongside the Avengers, not just waving from a distance. Mystique is using her powers against Yelena in a way that's both specific to both characters' skills. Nightcrawler is in the middle of chaos, doing what he does. The frame is dense with purpose. But here's what you need to ask yourself. The Fox X-Men franchise has been limping for years. Dark Phoenix bombed. Apocalypse before that. These characters haven't been culturally relevant in over a decade. So is bringing them back storytelling, or is it engineered nostalgia? Does this feel like a next chapter, or does it feel like Marvel digging through the past and hoping you remember the good times? The trailer can't answer that question, but the way each character is framed with intention, not just recognition, suggests the Russos are at least trying. Then comes the most exciting part of the trailer. Mjolnir flies through the air, it sprints through a dark corridor, and it snaps into the hand of Steve Rogers, Chris Evans, bearded, long hair, dark nomad jacket, emerging from the shadows the same way he did in Infinity War. Now, if you only watch the Avengers films, you know exactly who Steve Rogers is. Captain America, the skinny kid from Brooklyn who became a super soldier, who led the Avengers, who was worthy enough to lift Thor's hammer in Endgame, the single biggest theatrical moment in Marvel history.
I knew it.
After Endgame, Steve went back in time to live a quiet life with Peggy Carter, the woman he loved. He grew old, he passed the shield to Sam Wilson, he got the happy ending, and now he's back, catching the hammer again. The Russos recreate this shot beat for beat. The hammer's trajectory, Thor's stunned reaction, the pause, the catch, the lighting. It's the same visual language as Endgame. And that's the question this shot raises, not through dialogue but through the craft itself. In Endgame, this moment was earned across 8 years of films and an entire character arc.
Nothing.
Here, it's a callback. Are they building something new, or are they running a cover band and hoping you don't notice the difference? And then there is a small but crucial detail, Loki's TVA card. If you missed the Loki series on Disney Plus, and most casual fans did, here's what you need to know. After the events of Endgame, a version of Loki from an alternate timeline was captured by an organization called the TVA, the Time Variance Authority. They monitor the multiverse and prune timelines that shouldn't exist. Loki eventually became something far more powerful than a trickster god. He's now the literal anchor holding the multiverse together. Their TVA uses temporal aura cards to track variants across timelines. In this trailer, someone in a dark sleeve, probably Steve, is holding one of those cards. And set leaks suggest that Loki visits Steve Rogers in the alternate timeline he created by going back to Peggy. He tells him his presence in that timeline is causing an incursion. The timeline can't sustain him. If that's the story, if Steve Rogers, the moral center of the entire Infinity Saga, made the one selfish choice of his entire life, and that choice is now unraveling multiple universes, then Marvel is doing something genuinely brave. Even the best decision by the best character had consequences nobody could predict, because all throughout the Avengers movies, Steve kept debating with Tony Stark on the consequences of untamed power, and here it might have been Steve's doing. Sometimes a sunset catches fire, if you know what I mean.
Oh my god, he's gonna say it!
Say what?
Avengers! Flame on! Sorry, what now?
The trailer ends on Doom, full armor, green cape, hood, mask, silent. They don't show him fight, they don't show him monologue, they just let him stand there in full costume for several seconds. The camera lingers the same way it lingered on Xavier at the start. The silence around him isn't empty, it's earned. Behind him, the poster mural shows a mother and child. If the comic theories are accurate, dead. Whatever tragedy shaped him into the man who believes only he can save what remains. It started there. The parent-child thread runs through the whole trailer, and you don't need to have watched every movie to feel it. Steve and his son, the child he raised in the timeline where he chose peace. Thor and the daughter he adopted at the end of Love and Thunder. The one person he's now fighting to protect. Reed and Sue, the Fantastic Four parents whose son Franklin is one of the most powerful beings in existence. Doom and whoever he lost. The wound that turned a brilliant scientist into a conqueror. Every character in this trailer is fighting for a future that includes the people they love. And the trailer isn't sure that the future exists. And now the three universes make sense. And the incursion is forcing them into the same frame. When Cyclops fires his optic blast alongside a Wakandan warrior, that's two universes that were never supposed to touch, now sharing the same battlefield. When Thor catches Stormbreaker in Universe 828 and Doom snatches it out of the air, that's the main MCU's strongest weapon, useless in someone else's reality. When Steve Rogers lifts Mjolnir in a timeline he was never supposed to be in, that's one man's happy ending becoming three universes' extinction event. Marvel isn't just crossing over characters, they're crossing over 2.5 decades of your movie-going life. All the stories you watched in separate theaters, in separate years, in separate emotional contexts, those very stories are collapsing into each other. And this brings me back to where we started. Marvel's greatest failure since Endgame wasn't one movie, it wasn't one character, it was a philosophy. For 6 years, they operated on the assumption that more was enough. More projects, more jokes, more cameos, more post-credit scenes. The audience noticed and didn't like it, and the Marvels bombed. Secret Invasion evaporated, Quantum Mania turned the next Thanos into an ant-sized joke, and after each failure, Marvel did what every studio does, pretended everything was fine. More announcements, more release dates, more promises that the next one would be the one. This Doomsday trailer is the first time they have stopped pretending. The question isn't whether Doom wins, the question is whether Marvel, after everything, still deserves to be saved.
You're goddamn right.
That is my take on the new Avengers Doomsday trailer. So many questions, very little answered, and lots of theories spinning up like a multiverse. Subscribe to stay updated on the next videos I make on this trailer, and if you are interested, check out my movie review of Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey right here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.